We're learning new details this morning about the 2021 U.S. drone strike in Kabul. Remember that during our botched withdrawal from Afghanistan? This was after our 13 were killed. It was called a righteous strike. Well, according to the New York Times, the Pentagon knew that innocent children were among the 10 dead and made misleading statements about that reality. Joining us now, former Green Beret and author of Operation Pineapple Express, Scott Mann. Scott, you wrote the book on this moment in time. Does it surprise you that the Pentagon knew within hours, a couple of hours, that they had the wrong target, but they didn't admit it?
Hey, Pete, Happy New Year. You know, there's a lot about this whole thing that just doesn't surprise me. And certainly the way our executive leadership communicated to the American people, there were a lot of misses. You know, I don't know all the details about what was going on behind the scenes of you know, what they knew and when they knew it, but it certainly looks like, you know, the Pentagon could have leveled with the American people sooner on this. And at the time of, you know, you think about the moral injury, Pete, that was going on at this time, particularly with our veterans and watching their partners be abandoned. This just added more fuel to the fire, I think.
But why is the instinct, Colonel, to not just defend the strike, but call it a righteous strike, that it was a
So we know the suspect studied how a criminal crime scene operates and how you process a crime scene, but he left DNA there. He also left a bloody crime scene. So how is that all analyzed, and how do you get the evidence to convict someone? Sacramento District Attorney Anne-Marie Schubert is here, as well as crime scene analyst Cheryl McCollum. Thank you so much for joining the program. Anne-Marie, I want to go to you first. You've been doing this for a long time. He thought he was smart. He left DNA at the crime scene, and from what we hear from sources, they still have defensive wounds that may have DNA there. Is that a slam dunk for the prosecution if they could match that DNA to him?
Well, whenever you have DNA evidence, you're always looking to see what is the item left behind. And, you know, in some cases, you can try to come up with an innocent explanation, as, for instance, if you have a rape murder, you know, perhaps the person will claim he had consensual sex and somebody else killed the victim. But, you know, in this particular situation, you've got a knife sheath left behind, according to the affidavit. And that's a difficult thing to explain when you couple that with all the other evidence that we're talking about with the car and the phone and the trail of evidence both before, during, and after the crimes.
Yeah. I want to go to you, Ms. McCollum. So what if this suspect says, hey, my knife was stolen. I was not there. You got the wrong guy there. Is that possible in a court of law?
Sure, it's possible, but here's the deal. There's nobody else's DNA on the knife. Explain you being in the neighborhood 12 times before the murder. Explain your phone pinging that very morning at 4:04, and then you cut your phone off. And that'll be a pattern that he will not be able to explain, because he's probably never cut his phone off or put it on airplane mode before this particular incident. So there's a lot of things he's not going to be able to explain.
Cheryl, I anticipate this guy just because he...
North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. You know, I've said this before on the show. I'd love to get your take on it. This is the weirdest thing. Conservatives like yourself, who happen to be minorities, the left reserves special degrees of hatred for you guys and ladies out there. It's just deranged when you listen to it.
Well, first off, thank you for having me here, Dan. It's a pleasure as always. Yes, yeah, you know, what it boils down to, Dan, is this. I don't object to their disagreement with our ideology. What I disagree with is this, and what sickens me is this. The same people who will scream at the television and scream down at on the halls of Congress and out on the streets about how black people are marginalized and lied upon and treated misfairly and mischaracterized and excluded, they go into their own private chambers and amongst their groups, and they do the very thing that they say they despise. They use the same language, they use the same words. It's hate-filled all the things that they say about the language that supposedly hurts black people so bad, they turn around and they use that very language against those that don't walk the line, who disagree with them. They display the same racist attitudes. It's like this, Dan. You said it before, and I'm saying it now. The Democratic Party is the same now as it was then. Back then, they pushed the agenda for slavery, and they pushed the agenda for Jim Crow. Today, they're pushing the agenda for socialism and communism, and whoever they have to destroy doing that, and however they have to do it, they will do it. And if they need racism to do it, they'll use it.
You're darn right. Sir, a quick comment on this. The media piled on, too. Here's Joy Reid on Byron Donalds. Take a listen.
Never mind that Donalds supports voter suppression efforts, which disproportionately